Hello there, welcome to Beads Jar. I'm Natalia and I'm here today with another tutorial for you. Today we are going to be using the GemDuo 2-hole component beads, and we're going to be making this dazzling star shaped bracelet. So I'm going to show you how to make all of the components and even a toggle clasp to go with it out of seed beads as well. So I hope you enjoy the tutorial, and here are all the components that you're going to need to make this project. So here are all of the ingredients that you will need for our GemDuo star bracelet. So first of all, we have these GemDuo beads, and we have them in Pearl Shine Azuro blue. We'll also be using some of these very glittery crystal amber GemDuos. We're going to be using some Miyuki seed beads in size 11-0. And these are matte transparent light blue. We're also using Miyuki seed beads in size 11, and these are galvanized yellow gold. We'll be using 2 of these 3mm Swarovski pearls, and they are in white. I'm using Fireline in a smoke color. I've got £6 here, but you can use £4. It's perfectly okay to use those. And we'll be using peyote stitch today, so I always like to use the Quick Start Peyote cards by Deb Moffat Hall, and make sure that you use the size 11 one. We're going to use some wire cutters to cut our fire line, and also a size 10 beading needle. So let's get started. So I have here my GemDuo beads in the amber color, and I've threaded on about 1/3 of a meter of fire line onto my size 10 beading needle. Now what I'm going to do is to load 6 of these up onto my needle, and I want to make sure that they are all facing in one direction. So we've got this like a reflective gold surface on one side, and then we've got the clear amber color on the other, and the clear amber is the color that I want to be showing upwards for the first component. So I'm putting 6 of these on, and this is the process that you'll follow for all of the components on this bracelet. So this is how we start each one. So taking those down towards the end of my thread, let me just take those out of the way so it doesn't distract you. And then I'm going to tie a knot in the thread. So I'm leaving about 7 or 8 centimeters of fire line as a tail, because we're going to use this to secure our pieces when we finish. So I'm tying a knot, and you can see it creates a star shape. And then I'm going to tie a knot twice more, just a simple overhand knot, just to keep all of those together. Make sure you do it really tight, because they do separate otherwise. And then, like I said, this is the process that you'll follow for every single component that you make for this bracelet. All right, so then we're going to have that facing upwards with the amber coating, or the amber transparent effect facing outwards. And then I'm going to take my size 11 galvanized yellow gold seed beads, and we're going to bring my thread up to the center, and then take one of those and take it through. So this acts like a little detail right in the center of your component, your star component here. So you can see that that's there in the center. And then we're going to take the thread upwards and through the top hole in the bead. And then I'm going to begin adding one of these size 11 beads and taking my needle through. So size 11 beads, and taking it into the adjacent GemDuo bead, the top hole in each one, so that we end up with one of these little beads in between each of the points. Let me bring some more beads in there. And we have the starting point for our pieces that make up the bracelet. Okay, so that's my last one. And then the next thing that we're going to do is to add in some more of the GemDuos. So taking a GemDuo and making sure that you are having the transparent side up, and I'm putting my needle through the bottom hole. So we've got 2 holes in here, so we're going to take it through the bottom hole. And then my needle needs to go through that little bead that I just sewed in. And you can see that what we're doing is we're just kind of embellishing and making this wider. So again, I'm going to take another one of the GemDuos. I'm going to take my needle through the bottom hole, making sure that the amber side is upwards. And then this time we have no bead, we just have the point of the amber. So I'm going to take my needle through that hole in the top. I'll do this one more time just to show you how it works. And you just need to make sure that when you see how those two sit there, and we're creating like this extra extension. So take another GemDuo and then thread your needle through that little adjacent bead. And so you're just going to keep doing that all the way around. And this time you're taking it through the top hole in the next GemDuo and alternating. So I'm going to do that all the way around, and then I will come back and show you what to do next. So I've added those extra GemDuos in, and you can see we've got this beautiful sort of extended star. Isn't that lovely? So now we're going to add in some more of our little size 11 beads just to complete this section. So I have my thread, and it is coming up out of the top of one of these extended sort of points of the star. So I'm just going to take one of those size 11 beads, and then I'm going to take my needle through the hole in the adjacent point, and I'm just going to do that all the way around. So it's a really simple but very, very effective design, this, and at the moment, because those points have been added in, they are sort of flopping around a little bit, so this helps to give the design some structure. So I'm going to just take those beads into the space in between each of those points. Pop that bead on my needle. Now, one of the things I need to tell you about while you're doing this is not to pull too tightly, because you will end up creating a kind of bowl shape, and you don't want to do that. You want it to be curved slightly, so I'll show you what I mean when I get to the end of doing those little beads in between. So don't pull, because if you pull, can you see how it's really pulling the whole design inwards, and that isn't the effect that we want at all, because this is the bracelet. Okay, so nearly there. And then I will show you how to complete the design and to get rid of these final threads that we've got lingering about there. Okay, so we have just a few more beads to go, and that will get us to the end. And you can see how this starts to hold the whole design together and create a bit of structure for us. All right, so coming out of that final place there. Now you could take your thread around one more time just to secure everything that's connected together there. And what I'm going to do is to then just take my thread underneath. It does look pretty good on that side as well, but I do much prefer the transparency, I have to say. So as you can see, the piece is complete now, this component, and we just need to finish it off. So I'm going to turn it over, and my thread is coming out of one of those little seed beads at the moment. I'm going to take it through the next GemDuo. And then I am going to take it down through the top of the GemDuo underneath it. So I'm working my thread through to the middle, and then I'm going to take it through the base of that GemDuo there. And so we have our tail thread and the thread that I've got my needle on, and we can just tie a knot in those two. So just an overhand knot to start with. Tying that tightly. And just want to make sure that it's convex there. And I'm going to tie it one more time. You can do it 3 times if you want to be lucky. I probably will do a 3rd time. And then we're going to just snip or zap off those threads. And then we have our finished component there. That's going to go towards our bracelet. And I've done that also in blue. So the combinations that I've used a gold Miyuki at the center, and then I've used these transparent blue, what color were they called? Those are matte, transparent light blue beads around the outside, and done exactly the same pattern. So that is those components there. And then the next component I want to show you are the little stars that are going to be forming part of the pattern of the bracelet. So these are made in the same way. So we create a star shape. So we're threading on 6 of those GemDuos. We're putting a bead in the center, and then I'm going to show you how to make those little embellishments around the outside. We have our star component, and we're going to add these little frilly bits around the outside of each of the points. So I have my size 11 light blue transparent beads. So I'm going to put 3 of those. Oops. They are transparent, hard to see them against this blue background. But anyway, we've got the 3 beads there on my needle. I have my thread coming out of the top of one of the stars, and I'm going to just take my needle through the opposite hole that the thread is coming out of. And what that will do is it will loop those 3 beads around the top of the star. So then I just do the same alongside it. So I'm taking my needle through that bead in the center of those 2 points, out the other side of that top hole. I'm going to get 3 beads onto my needle, and then I'm going to go in the opposite side again. So you will repeat that around the outside of all of those little points, going back through that little bead there. And then join me again when I've finished that one, and we should be ready to start to put the bracelet together. So we've completed our components, and I'll just show you what you're going to need to have the whole bracelet. So I've got one central gold one, or amber coloured component. I've done another 2 large ones in blue, and I'm connecting them with the smaller stars. So 2 blue ones coming out of the amber, and then 2 little gold ones on the end there. And make sure I put those the right way up. So what we need to do now is just sew them all together. And I'm taking about 1/3 of a metre of fire line. I've just threaded that on my needle. And I'll take my first component. So we're going to see where we want our pieces to sit. So I think that would be a really good location for it. If I just move it along to the centre there. And so we've got 3 beads that we can then use the holes for to attach to the hole there, the hole within that seed bead, and the hole on the other GemDuo. So this is how we get started. I've got my needle, and I'm just going to take it through the hole in that Miyuki bead in the center. And then I'm going to tie a knot in it. So allowing myself a little tail there of about 6 centimeters. Tie an overhand knot, and then do that 3 times, and then you've got a secure connection there with your new thread. And then we can begin to take the thread up to the edge where we want to start connecting our components. So I always like to just take it up and along, and then through that the top hole in the GemDuo. So make sure that I'm doing that on the back. And I'll get my tail thread out of the way there. They do get in the way a little bit. Okay, and now I can just start to take my needle up through that first Miyuki. Then I'm going to bring my other larger component in. So I'm going to take this corner, this is the one that I'm going to attach everything to. So just taking my needle through that GemDuo. And we've got our first connection there, and then I just take my needle along into that Miyuki bead that's alongside. Just keep an eye on your threads and that they don't get tangled up. And then that's when you can start to go back through that little bead there. So you just use your judgment as to how you want to connect and where you're connecting everything to. Sorry, my thread just got a bit tangled up there. All right, so you can just start connecting and sewing through those beads. Do it 2 or 3 times. And then when you've done that, when you've got to there, you just need to send your thread across to the other side of your component. So the best thing is to not keep cutting the thread, tying it off, and then creating new pieces of thread. It's a lot safer and securer to just thread your needle through those GemDuos to get to the other side, and then you will just connect them all in the same way. So do that, and I'll do this with my piece, and then when we've completed that, I'm going to show you how to make the toggle clasp. So we're going to make the first part of the clasp, which is the loop that the toggle bar will go through. So I've come with my thread right up to the end of this final component. I'm going to take it up through the first one of those beads in that little trio of beads, and I'm going to place on 2 of these gold Miyuki seed beads, and then I'm going to go down through the next bead there. So it almost makes like this this nice little pointed part, and then I'm going to go back up through. I'm going to leave my needle there actually. So, and then I need 20 of these little transparent light blue beads. So that's going to make my little end clasp. So let me just thread 20 of these on. Okay, so I've threaded my 20 beads on, and so I've got those at the base of my thread there, connecting with that little bead there. And I'm going to take my needle through that bead that is opposite. Can you see this one here? I'm just going to pop my needle through there. And that creates my little toggle, and my clasp for my toggle. And then I just need to finish off by going through the bead below it. And we just need to make this really secure. Let's just caught my thread there a little bit. So I'm going to turn the piece over. I'm going to go back through the top of that GemDuo. I'm going to go back again through all of those beads here. And then back down through those ones and back through the GemDuo. I might have to just do those ones first and then back through there. Now, just to make this nice and rigid, I'm going to take my needle back up through that gold bead there and this one here, those two. And then I'm going to take my needle all the way back through those 20 beads, because it just gives it more substance, because this is going to be doing quite a lot of work. It's going to be getting the toggle bar pushed through it when it's fastened. So it's really important that you just give it a little bit more substance again. Just taking my needle back through those and then back through those two at the bottom. And then I am going to, that bead there, I'm going to use it to secure my thread. So I'm taking my needle back through that bead and wrap the thread around it, tie a knot. I'm going to do the same again, twice more. And then we'll be ready to snap the thread off, zap it or cut it off, whichever way you choose. And that is your first part of your clasp closure completed. And now I'm going to show you how to make the toggle bar. So the final stage of our project is to create a toggle clasp using a peyote stitch. Now this peyote stitch, I've started using the Quick Start cards by Deb Moffat Hall, and it's the size 11 that you'll need. Now we actually have a video on how to do this, so I'm dropping the link to that video in the show more section below, so check that out and I'll show you in great detail how to do that. And for ease, I'm just going to talk about the amount of rows that I've used here. So I did an even count peyote. I did 6 rows to start off with, and then I sewed along 5 more times to create this, which is going to be wide enough to wrap around and turn into a tube. So I've left my tail thread on there, which is, well, I'm going to show you why as we get to the end of this. And I have got, this is the thread that I was actually sewing the peyote stitch with when I did it on the card. So what we want to do is to fold that over, and you'll see that those naturally knit together. So just taking, as the thread comes out of there, I'm going to take it through that bead that's sticking up there, and then just pull the thread together and get my thread back again there. And then this is the first bead that we started with, so if it starts coming out, don't worry, we'll be able to secure that soon enough. So I'm going to then take my thread back up and take it into the next one. And so all you're doing is you're just threading and sewing these 2 halves of this toggle clasp together and creating a tube. So I'm going to sew all the way along, and then I'll come back when I've completed that and show you how to finish off and get rid of those threads. Okay, so I sewed those 2 parts together. We now have our tube, and it's always nice to just add in something on either end of the tube. And what I'm going to put at either end is a Swarovski pearl. So this is a 3mm white pearl, and you can see I'm coming through the center. My thread is coming out of the center of one of the ends of the tube. So I'm going to find the little hole in the center of the Swarovski, pop it on there, and then just make sure that you take your thread all the way back down through the center. And get your little bead central there on the end. And you're going to do the same on the other end. So we've got our second Swarovski, so I'm just going to pop that on there, onto the end of my needle. And then take my thread back down through the center. So you can see that they're sitting on the ends, but we want to make them, as we do with everything that we do in seed beading, we want them to be secure. So I'll go back through that Swarovski pearl with my needle and back down through the center again. And back through the second pearl again. So we can do that a couple of times or as many times as you wish. The holes on these are quite large, so they will accommodate more thread. They just add this nice little touch. It's like a little embellishment on the end, if you like. That just makes it look a little prettier, which I think is nice. I like to see that. Okay, so once you've done that and you have your Swarovski pearls on the end, you're going to take your needle back through the center, and then you want to come up around the middle of your tube. It's a little bit tricky to do. So there we go, just want to come out through the center. And don't worry if the tube is starting to look a little bit disorganized and disarray, because you can always just flatten it and get it into the shape that it needs to be. So now we're exactly in the center of the tube. I'm going to bring my bracelet back. This is where we want to fix the toggle to the end of this component here, this little star. So I'm going to get some of my little gold Miyuki, and I'm going to take 3 of those and just pull them to meet the toggle, and then I'm going to come up through all 3 of these beads on the end of this little star. Let's go down that one. So it just gives a little bit of leeway for that to go through the loop, because if it was attached directly to the component, we wouldn't be able to maneuver it and manipulate it into place. So then I'm just going to go back through the top hole in the GemDuo. I'm going to go up through that first bead. I'm going to go back through the 3 additional beads that I put on, the ones that are attached to the toggle clasp. Let's try and do that. A little bit fiddly. Okay. Just pull that tight, as tight as you can, and then what I want to do is just to take my thread through the first bead that we came out of there and just go back through. You want to make sure that you pull everything tight, and then you're going to add on 3 more Miyuki seed beads. I'm just getting those onto my needle. So I've got those 3. And then I'm going to come back down and just go through. Hold on a second, I'm just going to go back through those 2 beads at the top. So what it's doing is it's creating this nice little ending for us to be able to attach it. So you would finish off your thread in the same way by going back through and tying knots and then zapping or cutting the thread. And then the necklace, the bracelet will be completed. So I'll come back and show you that once I've done this final finishing. So when you've sewn your toggle clasp on, you can see that all of the components are sewn together. And then we've got our clasp and our loop that fits over. I just reposition it and it all connects together. So there is our completed bracelet, and I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope that you will go ahead and make your own in the colours that you like. I've also done it in another colourway I just want to show you. It looks equally good in this lovely glossy purple and then the matte gold. A really pretty design, and it takes on a whole different look done in different colours. So do experiment with the colours and make your own. Thank you for joining me and for watching this tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed it and it's inspired you to use some of our beautiful GemDuo beads to make your own star bracelet. And please don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss out on any of our future tutorials and product reviews. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again very soon.